Hey Business Warriors, now President Trump was interviewed on Fox Business this morning by Stuart Varney. I was on the road this morning, so I actually listened in the car. And I'm going to give you some highlights of basically what I think are the three most important things from this interview. And the first one is tax cuts, specifically for the middle class.
If you win, what kind of tax cuts would we get if you win, if you got a second term?
Okay, well, number one, Biden wants to increase your taxes, including the middle class, and he wants to get rid of the tax cuts that we've given to the middle class.
So Varney, first of all, asks Trump a question, and the first answer he gets, it just seems that Trump wants to get a load of information out about how Biden would raise your taxes. But Varney keeps pushing to get some specific information out of the president. So check this out.
And we've now got, in the world, we've got the fast...
Well, what middle class
you saw that number came out 2 days ago.
Which middle class?
And we're growing back faster. We're going...
Well, what
so we have a lot of
tax
things,
cuts
but if some guy that has no clue...
Varney was really earning his money this morning. But anyway, eventually, after pressing him several times, he eventually gets Trump to talk about the specifics.
Mr. President, can you tell us which taxes you would cut if you get a second term?
Middle income tax. We're talking about income taxes for the middle income people.
So wow, I was actually surprised that he came out and said that, but yeah, you may be getting a income tax cut. Now, Trump has talked about a payroll tax cut before, or a payroll tax holiday where payroll tax is canceled for, several months. Payroll tax, if you don't know, it's a 15% tax on all wages, split between the employer and the employee. It gets capped at about $137,000 in income per year, and then you pay a lot less. But anyway, most people pay about 15%, split between the employee and the employer. Now, we are currently living under a payroll tax deferral executive order, which basically means that companies do not have to collect payroll tax at the moment, but you will still owe payroll tax in the future because Trump can't actually reduce the tax rate, but he can defer it, all right? But certainly in my company, all of my employees have opted for me still to collect payroll tax for them because, it's too much of a risk if it doesn't become permanent. You'd owe a load of taxes, okay? But anyway, in the interview, Trump was talking about income tax, federal income tax, and that is the largest portion of the tax you pay on income above around $50,000, okay? Below around $50,000, the payroll tax actually makes up a larger portion, but above $50,000, certainly what you're paying in income tax is sort of the most significant tax on your income, okay? And he is saying he wants to cut the income taxes of middle earners. So what is a middle earner? How much do you have to earn to be considered a middle earner, and how much tax do they pay? Well, Investopedia had an interesting article about determining which class you fit into, and although it varies by state because the cost of living varies, they put middle income of between $70,000 and $180,000 per year in household income on average. So what tax rates do people in those income brackets pay? Well, there are currently two tax rates that cover those income ranges, and that would be 22% and 24%. 22% is for these income ranges. Now we'll focus on married filing jointly because the $70,000 to $180,000 figure is household income anyway. So even if you're not married, but when you add up the incomes of two or more people in your household, you're still paying the tax rates on those income levels. Because married filing jointly, you just get double the allowance in most of the brackets, okay? And if you're actually single living on your own, then you're screwed. I mean, probably not screwed, it's just a joke, but you do get the kind of harsh end of the stick because your higher tax rates kick in at lower amounts of income, but you may have lower expenses, so it may even out a bit. And then the 24% tax rate covers these income ranges. We've got single and then married filing jointly. Single filers, they do have the additional 32% above around 160 or so thousand, but I think the majority of people in middle income ranges are going to fall into this 22 and 24% household income brackets. So are we talking about bringing the 22% down to 20% and perhaps bringing the 24% down to 22%? That could be what's going to happen. Or, and this would be even better, if they merge the two rates into a 20% tax rate. I think that would be an enormous shot in the arm for the economy because obviously it would increase the spendable income, the expendable income of the middle class, and they would go take that money and they would spend it out in the economy, which then would further stimulate the economy. It would support jobs, it would support manufacturing, it would support all the kind of stuff, and just support the economic recovery we are in right now in general. So I would fully support that. Then the second thing is that Trump mentions taking the 21% rate down to 20%.
May bring down the 21% down to 20, even number.
Now, although he didn't say it, I assume he's talking about the corporate tax rate here, because the corporate tax rate in the US is 21%. Trump actually originally wanted a 15% corporate tax rate, but in the end, after they negotiated in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, it was reduced from, I think it was around 35 down to 21%. All right, so he would take that tax rate down by 1% down to 20, which, it's not a huge decrease, but obviously every little helps. And like Trump said, it's a nice round number, so I guess it would make the math easier or something.
Even number.
And then the third thing in the interview is that he talked about stimulus, and he said that he would go above the 1.8 trillion he has previously offered to the Democrats, who are currently blocking new stimulus legislation coming through the House. Here's what he said.
Let me talk stimulus. You've offered $1.8 trillion. That's your package. And you said you want to go big. Will you raise your offer above $1.8 trillion?
I would, because look, this was not caused by our workers and our people. This was caused by China. And China will pay us back in one form or another. And the money's coming back anyway. I would, absolutely I would.
Well,
I would pay more. I would go higher.
So there you go. Now, the Democrats have offered a $2.2 trillion stimulus bill, and now Trump is at over 1.8 trillion, so it does seem like they're in the range where they could meet in the middle, perhaps 2 trillion. But I think the problem really is that they want different things, okay? Trump and the Republicans do not want to bail out Democrat, high tax Democrat states like New York and California that really need a bailout, okay? They don't think that's fair. They don't want that in the bill, okay? Whatever opinion you have on that, that's just the reality. They don't want it and the Democrats do, and that's kind of the issue that's really blocking them. Previous bills as well also had a load of other stuff in them, like, for example, the Democrats' HEROES Act, which had a lot of weird stuff in it like this.
New annual studies on diversity and inclusion within the cannabis industry. The word cannabis appears in the bill 68 times. More times than the word job.
So yeah, I think Trump and the Republicans want to focus just solely on coronavirus economic relief, okay, rather than, pushing through a load of other stuff that's kind of unrelated and also bailing out Democrat states. Now, unfortunately, that puts them at a conflict, so I think we may still not see a new stimulus bill until after the election, even though we did have, a kind of a little bit of good news from Trump today, but I still think it might be too hard to get one passed before the election. Now guys, before we go today is the last day, October 15th, the last day of Webull's 2 free stocks offer for setting up a brokerage account with them and depositing $100. That's all you have to do. Obviously, it's your money. You can do whatever you want with it, buy stocks or withdraw it at a later date. But you get 2 free stocks valued up to $1,600 for doing that. And today is the last day. So if you want to get in on that, click the link below. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Please subscribe if you're new. Bye-bye from me.